Hello, everyone. I hope everyone is safe and healthy. I wanted to share this pre-entrepreneurship handbook I made. It goes through some principles that, based on my experience, would be great for you to know before you think of starting a company. So I put this together based on my personal experience starting companies, on my learnings with different theories, entrepreneurship theories, and concepts that have been put together by renowned experts in this field, as well as my experience consulting over 25 startups across the world. So I hope this is helpful to you. I hope this handbook is something that you can go through before you think of starting a company. So I'm gonna just go through this handbook briefly. It's gonna be on um, my Google Drive. You can have access to it on my website, jacobfortune.net, as well as you can just pretty much, I think with time you can Google it and hopefully it shows up, but it's going to be on my LinkedIn page as well as on my all my other social media pages. So just going through the 10 principles. So as I said earlier, this is based on my experience. So consulting over 25 startups internationally in the past 5 years, studying applicable entrepreneurship theories, specifically the Babson Entrepreneurial Thought and Action. Interesting one, The Start of Science 2017 by Masa Tadokoro, Economics of Mutuality, as well as, my experience starting several companies, which from my experience, I wish I knew these 10 principles before I actually started some of them. And, just the first rule of thumb is you have to be able to identify the problem and not the solution. I think most of the time entrepreneurs are in this, they try to get to the product without really understanding what the solution is. And I think it's a very smart strategy to think of what's the problem first. And through the problem, you'll be able to come up with a better solution, sometimes even more significant in terms of impact than if you focus just on product. And also, you probably have a lot of flexibility when it comes to designing what that specific problem, in designing something that will be helpful in actually addressing the root cause of the problem rather than being obsessed with your solution. So I think this, most importantly, this first rule is critical because if you don't get this right, you're going to miss out on what you're trying to solve. And therefore, this is just going to be an ego drive rather than figure out what was the problem that you're about we're actually interested or hopefully passionate about solving. Second one is understanding the problem cause. So this um, implies doing your research. Sometimes we get stuck with, just what is in our head, but if you actually go and do an intensive research, you get to really figure out what is the key or core problem. And you also get to meet other people who have experienced similar difficulties in that specific problem. Most importantly, you actually meet through your research, or you come in contact with people, hopefully virtually, people that have done research in that space, and you'll be able to get enough data to show that this is a real problem, and this is a problem that you have to, that has like a market opportunity and also has the critical mass for it to actually become a company, if you if you want to actually solve the problem. The third rule or third principle that I call is understanding the stakeholder map. So this stakeholder map is, you have to be able to make sure that you understand all the players within this problem that you're trying to solve. And I think it's very critical that you think about who are the other people in this space that are able to either contribute to solve the problem or actually a part of the problem. And if you have this map laid out, I think it'd be very important exercise for you to actually have a big picture view of how you can play a role within this stakeholder map, which is be the fourth principle. But laying this out first, I think is very important for you as an entrepreneur, as well as an investor, when you're thinking about, um, you know, um, starting a company. The fourth one is now identifying a role in the stakeholder map. So as I earlier mentioned, it's very important that you find a role within the stakeholder map, how you can be of greatest impact. And I think um, knowing how you function in this stakeholder map is very critical on how you create the most impact moving forward. The fifth one is understand how to use the resources you have. So most of the time we assume that we don't have enough or we have too much. Most of the time we assume we don't have much. But sometimes if you really get a really deep diagnosis of what you have around you, as well as the things you can actually have access to, I think it's very important for you to gauge if this is something that I can do based on what I have. Do I have the financial capital to get it done, or do I have other non-financial capital that can help me even to start the company for the first 6 months or a year before you actually get to that? So these are very important principles for you to actually figure out and know how to apply that. The sixth one is knowing the timing is right. This is very important, and it's coming towards the end because this is something that you have to be thinking about very seriously, or else you're gonna, waste a lot of time, or you're gonna start too early, start too late. But timing is one of the most important aspects of starting a company. If the need is not there, if the platforms have not been set in place for you to actually start something, it's very, very difficult for you to actually launch that thing. So I'll just give an example, like Uber, for example, um, couldn't have been possible if we didn't have smartphones. And it could have been much more harder if we didn't have, you know, um, cities like LA, New York, Boston that have, the people that have cars um, with, you know, um, with all this empty space that can be a platform for a shared economy, right? So likewise, Airbnb, the timings were right. I mean, Airbnb took a while for it to kick off to some degree, but they hit almost the right timing for people to be comfortable, um, the consumers to be comfortable to use a service like that, um, give or take, right? So timing is also very critical. How you think about it. So the environment and the ecosystem has to be favorable. What I mean by this is that you have to think about, are you in the right space for the right form of inspiration, the right mental support, um, and also the right feedback that is critical for you to actually kick off that startup idea, right? Because if you don't have the right environment, the right ecosystem, what happens is that you pretty much lose steam, or you kind of lose that vigor or that uh, passion to build a business. But most importantly, you lose that mindset, which I think is very critical uh, to build the company. And one other factor is that startups are hard. So beyond just the financial capital, which is I think is part of the environment, you also need a very good team or just a good mental support for you to keep on going, because it really takes a toll on you. So you have to have that support system. The eighth principle is acknowledging that the team is right, fit or not. So what I mean by this principle is that you need to have the right team with you, and you might have a very smart co-partner, co-founder to help you build the idea, but they have to be the right chemistry. It doesn't have to be a very intimate team, but you guys need to communicate, be able to communicate well, understand each other well, and also understand the problem very well. Um, and also, for the most part, get along, understand the um, kind of the thought process of each other, and kind of give each other the right support that is needed when one person is low, and the other person is more inspired, motivated. So having that right balance is very critical, and I think this is a very important role for you to actually build something that will make a really significant impact. The ninth principle is acknowledging that if you are the one responsible to lead the team. And I think this is very, very important, because if you don't get this right, you actually limit the growth of your startup before it even begins, right? So this is an internal reflection of yourself, and you have to be very comfortable to know that you are not the right person to lead the team if you don't, have, empathy, think about teamwork, think about getting feedback or being introspective about some of the challenges that you face. And I think this is something that every young entrepreneur or every potential entrepreneur, which is the Handbook, is trying to get people who want to start a company analyze principles. You really have to understand who you are first before you start a company. So this is honest reflection of who you think you are and how you think you should be thinking about starting a company. And the last one is being resilient, being consistent and flexible. This just goes to show most of the time the companies that the leaders in companies of the world, it's very, very important that they have, they're very tenacious. As I said earlier, starting companies really hard. So you have to be very resilient. You have to be very consistent because with that consistency, you will not make it for sure. When I mean, then flexibility is all about when you get feedback, you have to be willing to make changes because going back to principle one, the most important thing is the problem. It's not the product or the product or the solution you're trying to come up with. So having these three, these three characteristics is very important for you before you think about starting a company. I do have a worksheet that lists each of these principles that you can actually jot them down so that while you're done with them, you can be able to gauge yourself and see where you best fit in it. At the end of it, I list that, principle 7, principle 9 are very important when you think about if you're willing to really start a company. And I'm not saying there's a right or wrong answer, but I do think you really have to pass all these principles to be a favorable entrepreneur and a likely successful one. So this is just gonna be a good exercise, something to reflect on, and something to just look at yourself in the mirror and say, are these principles something that I did well in, based on the exercise we do, or just think about what I listed here and, and be honest with yourself. I do think based on my experience, if you go through all of this, you're most likely to succeed. So thank you guys for your time. And if you do have questions, as I said, you can reach out to me at jacobfortune.net. And I will set up an appointment with you and we can talk about it. But good luck with your startup. As I said, 30 minutes consult. You can reach out to me, jacobfortune.net, or that's my email. And good luck to you. And looking forward to talking to you guys soon. More interesting videos coming up with very interesting folks on my podcast. And good luck and all the best. Bye, guys.